Hello, everybody. So, first of all, I must say that I'm very proud to be here with you. It's an honor to have an Angular conference in Latin America, not in USA, not in Europe, here on our home. So I'm very proud to be here with you guys. At this talk, my objective is to to show you everybody that you need to know about open source, about how to build and deploy your own library. I'm not going to talk that much about Angular specifically, a little bit, but my main objective here is to tell everything that you need to know in order to publish your own libraries that you are keeping for yourself, or maybe the code that you have inside your company that you would like to share and open source it. So you can convince your manager to do that with the best tools, the best way possible. So, my name is William Grasel. I am a web developer on Itaú. I am working like more than 15 years on web, mainly front-end, mainly in the last years. I have been using all the type of frameworks that you can imagine, but my loved one, of course, is Angular. So, and I am part of the GT program. So if you want to talk a little bit about it with me, I can present and explain everything to you. And that's where I come from. Not exactly that place, you know, Brazil, but where I live is much more like that, and well, a lot of buildings, some nice landscapes sometimes, but mostly streets and avenues. So, and I run a community in São Paulo, the Angular SCP. We do a lot of big meetups there as well. So, and I'm going to speak in English here because my country is the only one in Latin America that doesn't speak Spanish. So I'm sorry. And I'm not gonna even try because I'm probably gonna offend all of you with my Spanish. So I think it's gonna be better in English. Then, first of all, when you are talking about open source, what is it? And the first doubt of everyone is that open source is freeware. It's just free to use, and that's not necessarily the case. So, open source can be paid software, although you can see and understand what is in the code. But of course, it can be free as well. So, what does it mean exactly, open source? First of all, you need to know that open source mandatorily needs a license. So you need to have a license to your code in order to be open source. So does it mean that if you have an open project on GitHub and it doesn't have a license, it's not really open source? Well, no. And what does the license need to say? Why do you need a license? There's a lot of reasons. First of all, you need to say your license needs to have some information like who can use your code. A company can use your code, a person can use your code, or a non-profit organization can use your code, and how they can use your code. So they can build their own software with that. It's just for studying purpose, or can they earn money with that? Can they put your code inside their code or not? They can just run your code alone. And can it be used in closed software? Can I use your code in my project that I'm not going to open source it? That's important information. And who have the responsibility of it? By responsibility, I mean, for example, let's say you do a small library, just like 5-10 lines, but it has a critical bug on that. Microphone? Yeah. And someone that is working on nuclear is using your library. And your library, with the bug, broke up and explode the nuclear usine. Are you responsible for that? Can they charge you or not? If you don't have a license, they may try to charge you. So if you have a license that say use it by your own risk, then they cannot do it. So let's talk about, let's try. Let's talk about some of the most common license. For example, the GPL, the General Public License, it says something like, oh, first of all, it's used mainly by Linux and a lot of famous open source projects out there. And it says that it can be used for commercial proposals, like your company can use a GPL license, but your code, your project needs to be open source. Use it. Oh. When you are using a GPL license, it says that your license of your code, of your project, also needs to use the same license. It's a vital license, you know? The license replicates itself. You cannot use a GPL project and use another license. Otherwise, the owner of the project can charge you because of that. So it's very important to know. And the derivative must have an open source, must open source itself, the code. And it says that it must use the same license, and there is no guarantees about the usage of the code. So if you are using Linux in a nuclear scene, and it's exploded because of Linux, they cannot charge the Linux trouble. The most common license, the license that Angular use and probably most of the JavaScript frameworks and libraries use is MIT, MIT. So it says that actually it's the most simple license. The text is really small, really small. And it says that everybody, anyone, any company, any person or not, can use the library, can use that code. And it's not vital. Actually, you can use it in closed source, you can use it with your own license, so it's not a vital license. And also, there is no guarantee about it. You cannot charge the owner of the library, the owner of the project, if it makes some trouble for you. And it basically says, use it as you want in your own risk. And of course, there is another license, that is the Be Aware license. This license says that it's more or less exactly like MIT, and it encourages you to buy a beer to the author of the library. So it's a very funny license. Or drink one and cheers by the owner if it's not living next to you. And of course, it's more a joke, and don't use it for real, serious projects. But yeah, I saw a lot of projects actually using that, and it's very funny. But it's like meat. And there is a lot of other licenses. You need to be aware of it if you are going to launch it for your company, or if you think that your project is going to grow and impact a lot of people. And there is some websites like this one, I believe that GitHub made it, that can help you to choose a license, not only for technical projects, open source projects, but also for like text, bugs, books, and a lot of other projects that's not necessarily technical. So we talked about license. Let's talk about JavaScript models. How can you build that? Should you build and deploy that? What does we need to deploy? Do we need to deploy? So, as everything on technology, it can be simple, but a lot of time it isn't. So, in the beginning, it was just chaos. We have just the global scope to use a model. For example, jQuery. Every time when you import a jQuery on your page, you have that symbol in your page, and you use that for that. You cannot import in like ECMAScript models like we do nowadays. Then, to try to put some order in the chaos, we started to use the AMD, the asynchronous modulo definition, that Backbone.js and some other projects used that back then. And then Node.js decided to use another modular system, not the AMD that most of people were using. So they decided to use the common JS that Node.js uses. And then they decided to use another pattern that is the UMD, the Universal Model Definition. And what's happened when someone likes to do another pattern is just to englobe anyone. You have another pattern, it doesn't help anyone actually. And then, but at that time, it looked like it was okay. You have like more on universal modeling, but then the ECMAScript decided to launch our own language, decided to use another modular system. So, and it's not even dynamically as it was or the other modules. It is statically. It's analyzed before the JavaScript even runs your code. So we have a lot of different type of modular systems, and we want to achieve most of the people. You want to, when you do your library, you want to make everybody independently on the modular system to use your code. So it's kind of hard to achieve all these people. And can it get worse? Yes, of course it can. Because bundlers like Webpack and Rollup and some others, they use different modular types. So what about the ECMAScript version? Should I publish it on ECMAScript 5 or on ECMAScript 6 or the newest version of JavaScript? How can I publish? And there is a lot of combinations of all these variables. It's not the whole table that shows all the variations that we can, that we would make. We would need to build our application in order to publish and achieve the most people. So we were like, how can I do that? How can I publish it, all these things at the same time? And the package JSON has some way to deal with that. For example, at this table, this main place of the table is the normal main of the package.js, and they have other properties to all the other kinds of modules of builds that you would like to deliver, and the builders like Webpack can use one or another depending on how they do that. But of course, we use Angular, and the Angular team is always trying to help us. So how the Angular team is always thinking, how can I make your life easier? So at some time in the moments, they just was researching about it. How can they help you to publish it the best way? And they come up with a way, Angular package format. It's a definition. It's a document with all the explaining all the way that you should build your application, build your app, your library, in order to be used for most people. And right now it's on version 8. If you see, it's an old screenshot. It's just a document that defines all the rules that you can do. And some guys on the community, even before they implemented that on the Angular CLI, they were doing and implementing this Angular format package already. And I was using this package even before they put that on the Angular CLI. So the community around Angular was doing the job already for us. And as there was a major option, there are major open projects for doing that, the Angular CLI actually puts the ng packager, this library, inside the Angular CLI on version 6. So since the version 6, we have the ng generate library that uses the ng packager behind the scenes. So you just need to, on your own project, you just need to generate a library and put your name. And when you build it, it's going to use the ng packager behind the scenes, and it's going to do all the building in all those formats that I just said for you, and it's going to solve all your problems right away. So, and there is this npm publish. So let's talk about a little bit more about publishing. How can we publish your library in the best way possible? First of all, if you want to publish an open source project, you need to understand how semantic version works. And there is a lot of people at the open source project, and there is a lot of open source project that doesn't follow the semantic version as it should. So let's talk a little bit about it. On semantic version, we have 3 numbers separated by dots. So the first number, it is the patch version. When you increase that number, this patch version, it means that you are solving some kind of issue, you are increasing the speed, something that is not broken anything, that it's not a breaking change, and that's not actually a new feature. There is nothing new to use for the user, and there is no breaking change, but I'm or fixing something or making something that already existed even better. So when you increase the number in the middle, that's the minor version, it means that you are adding new features. The public API of your project has new methods, has new modules, has something else that the user can use, but it's totally compatible with the other versions. So you are not putting any breaking change in your library at these first 2 numbers. So the third one, the major version, it means that, oh, you needed to do something that broke some of the public APIs. It doesn't mean that you rewrite everything from the scratch. So that's the same thing about Angular on the version 2+. Every time they increase the major version, they are saying that something on the public API has changed, and maybe your application needs to be updated manually, but sometimes you can just update the package JSON, and it's just gonna work out of the box for you. So doesn't mean that the breaking change is gonna affect all the users, but maybe someone. So you are telling the users, it means that these first 2 versions, they can be updated if you are following the semantic version correctly in the most secure way. If the user realizes that you are using semantic version the correct way, they can update your project in their project, your library in their project, with no worries that's gonna break anything. And, of course, you can increase that numbers and control the semantic version by hand, by yourself, but that's why so many projects out there does it wrong. So, the semantic version, actually, it's more a communication between projects and projects, like between robots and another robot. It shouldn't be a thing that humans are controlling. So we need to take care to not do a breaking change every time, but you should not be controlling by, I'm gonna increase the minor version just because I want, or the major version just because I want, or I'm gonna give a breaking change, but I'm not gonna increase the major version. It should be automatically. It should be a robot communication to another robot. So, how can we automatize this version? This semantic version. So there is a very beautiful, nice project that I really love, an open source project that the name is Semantic Release, and it's a perfect project, a perfect tool to automatize the semantic versioning and the publication of your project in your library. It has a CLI. You can install it with an npm install semantic release /CLI. And you enter inside your project and you run the CLI with the setup option, and it's gonna ask you a lot of things, like if your repository is private or not. It's gonna ask to the npm registry that you use, the name of your username, and it's gonna ask like your password as well. But don't worry, its project is open source security, and you can read their code to see if they have anything. But a lot of open source projects nowadays really rely on that project, and I love the way that they really take your hands with the CLI, and that asks anything that it needs to do it alone without any future human interaction. So I really recommend this project and this CLI. That's magic. That really works. That's some of the projects like the Angular CLI that when it works, when you are doing that thing by hand for some years and it just works out of the box, you are like, come on, how can it do this? And the magic behind of it, it must be some way to do that magic. And the magic that semantic release use is to have a commit message pattern. So in order to that to work automatically, you have to have in your project a strong pattern on how to write your commit messages. So if you follow that pattern here with the type of commit, like if it is a fix, if it is a feature, or if it has a breaking change, it's gonna use that pattern to decide if the next version is gonna be a minor, a patch version, or a major version, depending on how you did your commit message. So you need to follow that, but you don't need really to memorize that, because they even have a CLI that's gonna help you, and they are gonna give you a wizard asking you if it's a new feature, if it's a bug. It's gonna ask you for the short message, for the long version. It's gonna ask if it's a breaking change or not, and it's gonna build the whole commit message for you with that information. So everything can be automatized step by step. And okay, rely on me, it's gonna publish your project at npm with everything that you need, but some last hints that we need to know. You need to have unit tests. You need to have automated tests. Nobody's gonna use your open source project if they are not relying on you, and there is no way, no one is gonna rely on you if you don't have any sort of automated tests. So write it. And of course, please document your library. There's a lot of ways to do it automatically. Like the most famous documented library that we have on the Angular community is CompuDoc. You can use that to document applications or libraries, and I normally use that for all my projects. So it reads your code and take all the information of the TypeScript, and you can even give more information with JS docs, and it's gonna copy all this information and build a nice interface for you. And if you wanna automatize that even more, the CompuDoc can generate a JSON for you, so you can build your own specifically documentation, customizing everything, but with all the metadata that you need from your library. And of course, the last point to automatize here is to run all your automated tests, everything, all the health checks, everything that's gonna secure that that everything is secure in a CD, in a continuous deployment, a continuous integration. So every time that someone gives you a pull request, send a pull request for you, you automatically can check if the pull request has break anything, if it is following all your code standards and everything that you need. And you can also run the semantic release that I told you automatically on all your pull requests, even before you're merging it, to make sure if the commit message is in the pattern that you need. And when the pull request is merged, you run the semantic release automatically, and it's gonna generate for you the new version, and it's gonna publish it to NPM, and it's gonna work without any human interaction. You just need to merge the pull request, and it's all gonna work. And believe me, I have been doing that for many times. And GitHub has a lot of cool tips to you that you can look at the community tab on your project, showing you like you need to have a good description, a good README, a code of conduct, Code of conduct is something that a lot of people neglect, but it's very important. So how should the people deal with newcomers? How should be the communication between the maintainers of the project and the people that are saying sending you pull requests? Most important than all, the license. You need to have that. And it would be very good to have templates for opening issues and opening the pull requests. So at the templates, you can ask for the user, please, I need that information, otherwise I can't do anything with your issue. Well, I have all the informations and all the links to all the tools that I just saying here. All these titles are different links, and I'm gonna publish it, all these slides with that reference that you can continue your studying and implement all these tools on your repository. We are gonna have questions on the next session. And my Twitter is here. You can add me and question anything that you want. I'm gonna publish my slide there. Thank you.